Say more things, son.
What things do you want me to say? I can say all sorts of things. Like what an excellent dancer your dad was yesterday at this music festival we went to. He was the only person dancing, so it was pretty great.
Tell me more about this music festival.
So there was this free music/food truck festival happening in Annapolis yesterday. So we ran up there on our way to the Baltimore Orioles game. And it was like jam music, like a Fish cover band was the highlight of the night later, right? So it's just like jam music like Lettuce and other bands like that. So your dad's just like in the groove. He's up there, he's dancing, doing his thing, and no one else was dancing. There was a few people kind of doing the body weave thing, but it was a spectacle. I got a nice video of that.
Yeah, I was there to get down.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I wish I was there. Now, you say free music and food truck festival. Does that kind of implies that the food on the trucks is free?
It would sound like that, but no. So there was a cover charge. But we're all on diets and cheap, so we didn't buy any food or anything. We just listened to some free music and skedaddled out of there.
Okay.
Here's the real point of that story. The real point is that I like to get down. That's the point. I like to boogie.
Yeah.
Shake my ass. That kind of thing.
I came to get down. So come on, y'all, and jump around.
Precisely.
Jump around.
Oh, good. Well, in any event, welcome to a Shinn Show Sausage Fest edition. Well, not really. It's you, me, and Elsie, right? Is that true?
I guess, yeah. I mean, what do you consider? I don't think it's a sausage fest unless there's at least 5 sausages there.
As a woman, I will say the number is 4 for me personally.
Okay. Well, you're the expert, really.
That's true. We have to defer.
Although I've been to more sausage fests, I would probably assume. Really, my entire high school career was kind of just a sausage fest.
Really? Well, I would think there'd be some girls at your high school.
There were, but I spent a lot of time in locker rooms and,
I understand.
Doing hooligan things.
Right, there are few female hooligans, if you think about it.
I wasn't big into those types.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I
understand.
mean?
Yeah, I do. I know entirely what you mean. Well, shall we get started?
Let's.
Well, it's a Shinn Show. In fact, I already welcomed you, so I'm going to welcome you again. Welcome back to the Shinn Show. And we're joined on a Shinn Show by Nick Shinn, son, Elsie Shinn, spouse, and myself, Pete Shinn, host. Hello.
I liked the brevity.
Yeah, I don't know. What's going on in your guys' world?
Oh, well, all kinds of things, really.
However, I've been waiting all week for an update. I need an important news update about this kitten.
Oh, yeah. Well, so we found him.
All right.
All right. Where? Did he run off to hang out with his friends for a while?
Hang on.
Fuck no. What happened was, what, Dad?
Well, before we get into this, first of all, it's worth noting for those who may not have heard before that you had a kitten that was missing last week. Very concerned about this kitten, and now you don't sound that happy. So before we get started, did this kitten turn up alive or dead?
Oh, he's alive. He's fine.
Whew, that's a relief.
So Ermac's off the hook then.
Ermac's off the hook. Everyone's off the hook. What happened was he had been gone for about 4 days, and then Murph sends me a picture of a Facebook post of this guy. There was a kitten in a tree, and he was like, this cat's been stuck here for a couple days. I can't keep him here because my dogs are fucking crazy. He had a blue collar with a bell on it, took him to the Humane Society. I was like, a little kitten with a blue collar and a bell on it, that's definitely him. So then I went to the Humane Society. And I said, yeah, here's this Facebook post. You see this cat? That's my cat. So I need him back. And then they were like, okay, that's going to be $200. Here's the paperwork you can sign. And I was like, $200? Are you kidding me right now? And of course they weren't. What I should have done is brought someone with me who knows the kind of shit, the protocol. I told Murph that when I got him back. She's like, dude, it's $75 to adopt him. How is it $200 for you to get him back? I would have thrown a fit. I was like, yeah, I should have brought you with me, but I didn't. Now they said you can get some of this money refunded if you take him back to get his shots, and if you take him to get neutered and shit, which I guess I will, right? Got to do that.
Yeah, got to do that.
But yeah, I was pissed off that it was $200, but then I was like, I can't leave him here. So I paid him. It's like cat jail, you know what I mean? It's like I had to bail him out of jail.
Yeah. Yeah,
so I couldn't leave him there.
Yeah, we got some interference in the background here. I don't know what's going on. Something bad's happening.
Oh well, Elsie slipped behind you and appeared on the other screen, much like those paintings from Hogwarts that I was
Right.
But the
Yeah.
long story short, dude, is that we found the little motherfucker and it was expensive as
Yeah.
a bitch. So, you know,
And so you did end up having to pay 75 or 200, or what'd you end up having to pay?
it was $200.
$200. What'd they do for that $200? Did they like blow dry his hair and, like neuter him or spay him or give
First
him?
off, it's $100 impound fee, which I don't know what the fuck that means, dude. It's not like they went out and found him. Some dude found him and took him in there, okay? So at that point, they had done absolutely nothing. $100. Now it's $16 a day to have that little motherfucker in there, like they were feeding him caviar or some shit. And so that fucked me. 16 times 4 is like another $60, and then some other bullshit. But I couldn't leave him there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like leaving your buddy in jail when you could bail him out.
Yeah. So you did the right thing, undoubtedly. Good job on that.
Yeah, little fucker.
Well, pets are expensive.
But if he runs away again, dude, I'm not getting him this time. That's on his ass.
Right. It's kind of like the guy you bail out of jail once for a DUI, and then they get another DUI. You got to do that again? No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Well, that's interesting. No, so I guess in our world, we've just been, we've been busy working, that kind of thing. So nothing exciting like recovering a pet.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of bailing people out of jail,
yes.
Did I ever tell you about the maintenance guy that like does like is the resident handyman at my job?
No, not at all. You haven't.
Dude, that motherfucker is like for real crazy. Okay. First off, he's been arrested a few times.
Right.
Like he knows his shit. When something goes wrong in the store, they just call him. Jeff is his name. He comes in. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know his last name.
Look, nobody knows where you work, okay?
Yeah, I guess you would. People would have to listen to this shit. So whatever.
Right, exactly.
And care,
Exactly.
So anyway, so he. First off, how I knew for real he was crazy is he wrote this petition. I don't know if you can see me using air quotes. Petition.
I can. I can see you using air quotes.
At the job to sign, and it was like a fucking. It was just like 15 pieces of paper, but they weren't like standard 6x11 paper. It was like long, like
sure.
a fucking
super long paper.
Yeah, super long paper, and it had like a shitload of stamps on it. I don't even know what the petition was for, like because it was. I'll get into like the contents of it later. Let's just go over the cover. And the cover had his picture with his license fucking like
prominently displayed.
It was addressed to the Supreme Court of the United States with a fuckload of stamps on it. Right?
And this is from Jeff, your maintenance guy at the Chinese restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this petition, like I feel like if you send in a petition, first off, it has to be the standard paper size. And it has to be typed. You can't just write everything on there with a pen and then copy it.
No, you can. That's what's known as a manifesto.
Yeah. It is kind of a manifesto. But he told everyone it's a petition that you can sign. But it is definitely a manifesto.
Is it too late to ask what this manifesto is?
No, he hasn't even explained it yet.
Basically what it is there's this guy who I looked him up and he's a lawyer. His name is Gage Cobb and his associates. He keeps referring to this entity called Gage Cobb and his associates in this fucking manifesto about how he needs to be protected from them. And he says he's been kidnapped, tortured, and raped and is still actively being kidnapped, tortured, and raped by Gage Cobb and his associates.
Right.
And yeah. And so there's all these, but then he would write like on the margins of the paper, he would write like just strange, deranged scribblings. Like he would write the letters or the numbers 911, and then he would write 9.1, and then write the word 9, and then the word 1, and then the word 1 like I won, and then just like go like it was the scribblings of a madman. Okay.
Well, clearly. And Jeff is your maintenance. Just to be clear, Jeff is a maintenance man at a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, and he's handy as fuck. And he's got a nice truck, too. I'm not gonna lie. And his truck says no hunting. He's got a sticker on it that says no hunting on it.
Okay.
And in that manifesto, he says, I have a sticker that says no hunting on my truck because I do not believe that humans should be hunted. Well, I'm a human, and I'm being hunted by Gage Cobb and his associates. So it's crazy, dude. All right, now let's fast forward a little bit.
wait. Before we fast forward, how did you get in tune with this manifesto/petition? You show up at work and it's like on the wall or what?
It's dude, he went up to the host stand. My boss, she threw it away. I was like, I'm so fucking mad at her. I was like, please do not throw this away. I want to take this home. She's like, he gave us a copy for everyone to sign. He goes up to the host stand, like, this is a petition for the Supreme Court of the United States. Please read through it and sign it. And then fucking, left his copy there.
Yeah.
Mind you, this is all handwritten,
of
except for
course.
the stamps and his fucking, but it's copied though. He does have copies.
Okay, good.
And,
so it's not the only copy that got lost. No. It's
no.
Oh, good. That's a relief.
But, well, I mean, I want another copy, dude. Like, I want to hold. It's crazy, like, because you can see. Anyway, she threw it away. I was pissed, but he wanted everyone to read that and sign it. And as I was going through it, I was like, this is fucking literally insane. This man is insane.
Ask him for a copy. He'll be happy to provide you one as long as you sign it.
And he's always said some strange offhand. I ain't signing shit by that dude. But
you can sign with someone else's name.
Things.
Well, I drive by the Supreme Court oftentimes on my way to work. I can drop it off for them.
Right. Tell them you'll mail it in.
Yeah.
Well, they accept it if it's handwritten.
Well, I mean, someone will take it.
And it's not 6x11 standard paper. Like, it's fucking.
Here's what's going to happen. If indeed he mails it to the Supreme Court or anywhere in the Capitol, it'll be run through a special facility to make sure that it isn't contaminated with any poisons or other biological agents. And if indeed...
Which I'm not going to rule that out, dude.
Well, okay, that's fair.
Because of the next part of the story, which I will tell you after you finish.
Well, and then if it is indeed deemed to be safe, it will be then sent on to its addressee.
At which point, some intern in college is going to read it and be like, oh my God, this is gold. And he's going to tell all of his friends, and they're going to hang it up in the office somewhere, and that's where it's going to live.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep it, I wanted like just to show it to anyone who would look. Like, you want to see what a real crazy person writes like? Look at this.
Well, that's America for you. Got a lot of crazies running around.
Yeah,
all right,
okay.
So what's the rest of the story?
Now let me finish the story here. Let's fast forward a couple weeks after I read this thing.
Yeah.
And he's in jail for terroristic threat. His bond or his bail is $1 million.
Holy cow. $1 million.
Boss Hong has to bail him out for $100,000.
Yeah.
And he does.
10% cash alternative. Hey, the Boss Hong.
Why? Why would anybody bail him out? Sorry,
he's
you
the
can
handyman.
wait arraignment. No handyman is worth that. You can go buy a handyman for that.
No. But see, that's not the way it works at our job. He got a guy who does good work for cheap. So that's the guy forever now. No matter what.
Doesn't matter if he's insane. Doesn't matter if he makes terroristic threats. Doesn't matter.
Nope.
No, it doesn't matter. Okay.
None of that matters.
Well, it's nice to know your employer's going to look out for you like that.
Well, he'll look out for him like that.
Fair.
Why not you? You're a pretty darn good waiter.
Well, yeah, but that's not saying. Literally, a monkey could do my job. You could, for real, train a monkey to do my job.
I'm so proud you're better than a monkey.
No,
well,
you
the
are
difference
better.
is you wouldn't have to tip the monkey. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
wait, but
You don't have to tip me either, actually. But
so I need more details on this case. How did they get him for terroristic activities?
I don't know. It's kind of a high-profile case. Like, I don't think they're releasing a lot of details.
But the good news is that he's still available to fix any clogged toilets or any cooking equipment or anything like that.
He do good work for cheap.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not that cheap if you got to bail him out for $100,000 fucking dollars. I'll tell you that.
I don't think that's the first time they've done that shit either.
Do you know what would be beautiful? What would be beautiful is if Sarah got called up for jury duty and got to sit on his case.
That would be fucking
That'd be
cool.
beautiful.
That'd be awesome. Yeah,
That would be awesome.
well, we have things to hope for. Yeah, so there's a lot going on in your world this week. Quite a bit.
Well, no, this is actually a long time ago that this happened. A couple months ago.
Oh, I see. You're just now getting around to sharing it with us.
Yeah, I just, it slipped my mind. But you said something about bailing someone out of jail multiple times. And I was like, I know a guy who's been bailed out of jail at least one time, enough to be multiple times.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. As many times as your cat, certainly.
Because he do good work for cheap.
Right.
So, but that's why you got your cat out of jail, right? She does good work for cheap. Chasing
He's a boy.
Yeah. Chasing.
He's a nice cat, dude. And, it's that whole story where, like, he's the lone survivor. I want one of those motherfuckers to survive, and then what? I'm gonna nurse him back to health, and then I let him rot in cat prison.
Hey, I went back to Florida for Fatso. I get it.
It's true.
Yeah. Speaking of Fatso, other news of the week: Fatso brought us a fucking rabbit head to the back door.
That is true.
And a foot and some tripe and looks like half a kidney. Yeah. It was delightful.
Yeah, just
that happens. Dumpster Kitty does that too.
Leaves the head? Just the head.
He'll leave like parts of it, and then Moose will come up and then just eat the rest of it whole. Did I tell you last week that I just watched him eat the bottom half of a rabbit?
Yeah, you did. You did. You said
tough.
Yeah, you said the crunching was off-putting at it.
Right. I would imagine Fatso's rabbit eating was more quiet, but the fact that this rabbit is like half her size, maybe even more than half her size, is just shocking and impressive to me.
Yeah, well, she's quite the huntress, Fatso, the catso. No question about it.
Cats are the superior hunters of all mammals, I believe.
No, they're real good. I will tell you this, that I found so here's what happened. I went out because I'd been out in the gazebo earlier that evening smoking a cigar, and I'd left my spectacles out there. And so the morning I was trying to get on my way to work. And so Fatso the catso had been out all night. So I opened up the door to go out on the back porch, to go into the gazebo, to get my spectacles. I see the rabbit head. I do nothing about it, but I let Fatso in. Fatso's ready to come in. So I go out, get my spectacles, go in, lock the door. Fatso is now inside. The rabbit head is outside, and I leave. Elsie gets up a little later than me, gets downstairs, sees that Fatso is inside, and yet opens up the back door and sees a rabbit head. And so she thinks, what the fuck? Who is leaving rabbit heads on our back porch?
Now, to be fair, I didn't see Fatso inside. I just knew the door was locked and there was rabbit outside. So then I went looking for Fatso, knowing this was her handiwork, because she used to bite the necks of lizards and kind of dismember their heads halfway and leave them for us in Florida. So I was like, oh yeah, a head, of course.
You knew the MO.
But when I called for her, she was inside. So it was quite the mystery. I was like, what, is there magic cat? What's going on here?
Yeah, she thought maybe she'd grown opposable thumbs and let herself in or whatever.
I also worried maybe watching The Sopranos had a bad effect on her. She was giving us a message.
Yeah, maybe so. That's true.
You know what? Your story already ended 1,000 times better than I thought it would. Because you started the story with, I left my glasses out at night and then went out the next morning to go on my way to work. And then you saw the rabbit head rather than stepping in the rabbit head.
That was a narrow thing right there. And I was in a pair of brown suede loafers. That would have gone badly.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you right now. I'm glad that didn't happen. Yeah, brown suede. I wore them with my seersucker suit.
So I apologize for any noise you all may have heard earlier in this podcast. I realized I had left my phone in the meeting upstairs, and I came down to troubleshoot the sound with you. So that what we heard was the sound of Brad getting a phone call that he starts a job tomorrow.
All right.
Round of applause.
Yeah, let's hear it. All right.
Let's have a round of applause for that.
Where's he working at?
He's going to work at a deli. He's going to be a dishwasher.
Chesapeake Grill and Deli.
Yeah. Good for him.
He'll work his way up.
I'll tell you what, we're happy for him that he's going to begin work at a local deli, but we'd be 1,000 times happier if he was going to work at Ziff's. That's right, Ziff's fine dining and relaxed continental atmosphere in Invercargill, New Zealand, a proud fake sponsor of a Shinn show for almost 100th of a century. And you know what would even make us even prouder is if Brad would go from his job at Ziff's right on over to the throne room.
After every shift.
And get a new tattoo by the best tattoo artists in Invercargill, New Zealand. That's right, it's the throne room, also a proud fake sponsor of a Shinn show for nearly a billionth of a millennium. All right, so we got that out of the way.
I would almost be offended that you don't want Brad to be a tattoo artist as opposed to getting a tattoo himself, but we've all seen his art.
Oh, it's not good. Oh.
Did I tell you that I went to school with a kid whose dad owned a tattoo shop? Anthony Sanderson was his name.
Oh, really? Was his dad any good?
His dad was good, but Anthony was better. This kid, he drew. Well, first off, he drew he won a state art prize. You know what I mean?
So a true body artist, then.
Yeah. Anyway, so he tattooed. He was left-handed like me, and he used his right hand to tattoo his own left arm, like a half sleeve, and it looked badass.
That's hold on. He tattooed his left arm.
Yeah.
With himself. His non-dominant hand.
Yes.
That's impressive. First of all, you had me at tattooed himself. That's impressive right there.
Yeah. I didn't believe that he did it himself until, because that was after I had, that was before I before I knew he was so good at drawing shit. You know what I mean? Like, he just came to school with a new tattoo and was like, yeah, check it out. I did it myself. And I was like, you did not fucking do that yourself, dude. No way.
But he did.
And then I found out he was a legitimate artist, and I was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. So, any of your tats done by Mr. Sanderson?
I knew him in Alabama, so no.
No. Okay. Well, very good. Well,
the only person I ever saw again from Alabama was Ernesto San Ramon when I went to Mexico. And I hit him up and I was like, hey, dude, I'm in Mexico City. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? And then we met up and had a beer.
Which is amazing when you consider that Mexico City is a city of more than 20 million people.
Yeah. And we fucking, and I knew him in Alabama. You know what I mean?
Yeah, small world. Classic.
Yeah, 4 years later, it's just like, hey, dude, I'm in your country now. Let's get a beer.
So how did you all stay in touch?
Snapchat.
Ah, interesting. It's the 21st century, you know?
And this is the good part of social media.
Yeah, I haven't really talked to him since, though.
All right, well,
but I feel like, we did our thing. Like, we met back up after high school in another country.
Right.
You know, best wishes to him.
Well, and if he came to Omaha, I'm sure you'd take him out.
Yeah,
for sure, dude.
Yeah,
sure.
Not that you live in Omaha. We don't want to disclose your location.
Right.
But if you did live in Omaha.
Hypothetically, if I did live in Omaha, or if I lived in Las Vegas and he went to Las Vegas, Or
if you guys just planned a trip to Omaha together. Aww.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like I live in Las Vegas and he lives in Mexico City, but then we're both just like, hey, dude, let's meet up in Omaha, Nebraska, and just see the sights there.
Right. That makes sense. Makes good sense.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So, so that's what our week was like. We've both had some cat issues this week. You have too. There's been some news, interesting news. News came out today. There's been a whole bunch of more border stuff. I mean, are we treating them right? Are we not treating them right? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it's fucked up. Who's that one chick? The congresswoman?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC.
That lady, yeah. She gave a pretty appalling report on the state of, the... What should we call them? Detainees at these camps
Detainees
here?
is a good word.
Well, the question is, do you believe what's being printed in the New York Times? President Trump says don't believe that.
Well, do you believe President Trump? Who do you believe?
Yes.
It's the age of misinformation.
It's hard to believe somebody who only scores 17% on the PolitiFact machine of how often he is not outright lying.
Yeah, well, you know what? PolitiFact, you know what I call that organization? Fake news. See, she knows it. Baby. She knows it, baby. No, but you're right, Nick. That's the real issue is what is a brother to believe? Or a sister, for that matter. What are you to believe?
At a certain point, then you just want to shut down and just be like, you know what? Fuck all this. I'm just not even... That's what my mind leans to when it's just like, if nobody's telling the truth, I don't even want to know about any of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that works to the advantage of those who are ultimately benefiting from the status quo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
thus it always was.
And thus it remains.
So then what are you to do?
Well,
I guess you have to do your own investigative journalism.
That's right. You have to look at a variety of different information sources and make a decision about what you believe and what, if anything, you can do about it.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
I think it's important that people take, even if you do believe that it's a reliable source, if you really weren't there and you didn't see it, I think you should take everything with a little grain of salt. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I will tell you this. I was present for, 300 and let's just say 300 days on the ground in Afghanistan. Let's say it was around that time. At the end of it, I wrote the unit history. That unit history, I was there for it. I witnessed it, right? But it was still only my perspective out of 63 people. And so, it was my history in a sense that everyone participated in, but ultimately my perspective made a difference. If you'd asked the other 63 people on that team, or 62, whatever it was, they'd all had a different point of view in terms of what the history really was from their point of view.
Right. And when you're reading a story or hearing it, whether someone's reading it to you or whatever, you're not like I said, if you're not actually there, you didn't see it, you don't really know what happened. You know what I mean? You're just getting, like you said, one account of one person who was there. No one person has all the angles, has the whole truth. You know what I mean?
I do. But here's what we can say realistically about what's happening on the southern border, that there are a lot of people that are coming to the southern border in search of whatever, in search of X, that our immigration laws are currently not equipped to deal with this influx of migrants on the southern border, nor are our facilities equipped to deal with this influx. And so as a result, poor treatment is almost guaranteed because we don't have the facilities to properly care for these people. And the question is, do we have an obligation to care for these people?
Maybe not, but I also feel like we don't have an obligation to put them in these fucking camps in the first place either. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. I do. So that's the other side of the coin, right?
Like
is that
before
okay?
The camps, we were good, right? Everything was like, the world was still turning, so why don't we just go back doing that?
Well, because before these camps or before these people were arriving, there have always been people coming to the border. But the issue is that there's been a major influx in part because conditions in Central America are so poor. And so that becomes a real issue. How do you treat the core of the problem while at the same time addressing our own problematic immigration laws? We don't have consensus in this country about how to deal with it. That's the truth.
You're right.
All of that combined with the natural influx that was already happening because of the poor conditions down there, and then all the fear-mongering and all the threats of what we're going to do and how we're going to shut it down, actually is persuading many people who would otherwise be on the fence or stay to come to America now because they're being told that if you don't come now, you might never be able to. So it's exacerbating the problem tenfold.
Yeah, isn't it strange that we're talking about camps, though? That we're talking about active camps with actual people in them. You know what I mean?
Well, you could call them camps. You can call them internment centers. You can call them displaced persons facilities. What's in a name, right? But at the end of the day, you have people who are trying to get here, who they're detained, and then ultimately we're trying to do something with them. So, and it's a complex issue, very complicated. But
yeah, no one has the answer. I don't think there is one,
If
it were a simple answer, if it were an answerable question, we'd have done it by now, I'm sure.
That's true. There are a whole variety of steps that need to be taken. The problem is that we can't decide. So at the same time that we can't decide what exactly to do, can one blame the executive branch for taking steps? Now, you might not agree with those steps, but the problem is no one really knows what those steps actually are. And so there's, again, in an age of misinformation, it's very difficult to sort out fact from fiction on this. And I'm not going to attempt to.
All I know is it's real bad.
Okay. Real bad.
It's bad.
Here's one thing I'll tell you. I feel fortunate to be a citizen of the United States. That's for sure.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. It's like there's a lot of stuff we take for granted.
Yeah, like not having to cross the border someplace else.
Or like you just think about China, people healthy, even if you're a healthy young man, I wouldn't say more danger than anyone else, but you're in a lot of danger of getting your fucking organs harvested. You know what I mean? Shit happens, dude. They got vans, like they just snatch you up, throw you in the van, harvest those fucking organs right there, and throw your husk off on the side of the road.
I don't think that happens so much in this country, but Asia for sure.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying, be glad you're not in China where your organs your body can be.
That doesn't happen here. I don't think so.
Well, not often. Not as often.
To my knowledge.
Well, Trump's trying to have better relations with China and Russia. Maybe he can just sell the South Americans to them for organs.
You're disgusting. Stop it. That's gross. Knock it off.
That's
Selling
the thing,
something.
But they have a real term in China for these. They look like ambulances, but they really like they pick people up and harvest those fucking organs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't
think I'm lying.
No, I don't. I don't think you're lying. Why would I think you're lying?
Well, you also told us that they're doing it to the Muslim prisoners. Is that accurate?
I said that?
Yeah,
yes.
you said that.
Mm-hmm. Previous episode.
Yeah.
I said they did it to Muslim prisoners?
Yes, you did.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do it to all prisoners. I'm pretty sure they definitely do harvest prisoners' organs, too.
I feel like we need to look this up now.
Well, here's what I'll tell you for sure, son, which is that you have a fixation on having your organs involuntarily harvested. That's for sure.
Hey, man, if it's happening, people need to know about it. You guys are trying to silence me right now. You're laughing now. I think it's all fun and games till that fucking ambulance pulls up with the Chinese writing on the side, dude. And then all of a sudden it ain't so funny.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm glad.
Then all of a sudden you wake up in a seedy motel in a bathtub full of ice with "call the doctor" written in blood on the fucking mirror.
Right.
In Chinese, naturally.
Right, naturally. Yeah, probably most likely in China, though. Not in the United States. Right?
And either I was wrong in my remembering or you were wrong when you said it's Muslim. I don't know. Could be both. But it was the Falun Gong practitioners and other political prisoners.
Yeah, political prisoners. Yeah, sure.
But
Gong.
surely a couple of them are Muslims, too. I don't think Muslims are left out.
No, they're not.
Harvesting process.
No, they're not excluded simply because of their religion, if that's what you're getting at.
Look, when Rusty the organ harvesting clown comes in every Tuesday to those Chinese prisons, he doesn't discriminate. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, good point. All right, so just relax take it easy. Let's ratchet back on the organ harvesting. Move on to...
Right. We'll dial it back on the organ harvesting.
Yeah, good idea.
So here's other news of the week that, Nick, I'm curious your participation in such. You've heard of the Area 51 infiltration that's scheduled to happen?
Yeah, look.
Okay, are you the ringleader? What's going on here?
Are you fucking kidding me, dude? I love these memes. I saw this headline that said, they can't stop all of us. Over 200,000 pledged to storm Area 51. And I was like, are you fucking shitting me right now? They can and absolutely will stop all of us.
Oh, yes, they will.
They might just ghost. Who knows how they're going to do it, if you're going to be alive or in your brain taken out or some kind of whatever they're going to do, they will do it. Like, you can't just and apart from that, like the fence, what am I trying to say? The very part where it's illegal to go into, the first part, is miles and miles of desert before you even get to the base. Like, even if you did storm it, like, you'd be deep in area or enemy territory, so to speak, for you'd be wandering in the fucking desert. What kind of weapon you got? You know what I mean? The whole thing is fucking ludicrous.
It is ridiculous.
Do you think you can convince your maintenance guy to get in on that action?
Probably, yeah.
Right.
Probably so.
I don't know. He's more concerned about one specific man and his associates and
right.
their tendency to hunt and kidnap and torture people.
And him specifically.
Yeah, him specifically, I guess. I wish I had the fucking manifesto right in front of me. We could go through the goddamn thing. But my boss threw it away like a dummy. I told her not to do it. I said, please.
Yeah. So,
I threw it away. I thought you.
Yeah, but you identified you've identified the legal firm.
Yeah. I was like, this guy's got to be real. And I looked it up, and he's a lawyer.
Yeah. In Omaha. I
think so. Maybe not, though. It might be somewhere else.
Yeah. So we don't know. We don't really know. We know one thing, though. It's not within the guidelines of ethical behavior. I'm pretty sure the American Bar Association does not endorse kidnapping torture.
No.
That's not.
I think that's a tall tale, Dad.
Isn't Epstein a lawyer?
What Epstein?
Is he?
Jeff Epstein.
Who's Jeff Epstein?
You don't know who Jeff Epstein is?
Yeah, seriously.
Are you joking?
Yeah. Who's Jeff Epstein? What are you talking about?
Okay, he's fucking...
Break it down,
that guy. He's this super old man who has been in trouble multiple times before for child sex rings.
Yeah, no, it's not his name's not Jeff. It's not Jeff Epstein. It's
Jeffrey Epstein. Then.
Yeah. I call him Jeff because women were allowed to, right?
The same thing.
We
Come
can
on.
call him whatever the fuck we want.
Well, yeah,
he's had to bust it down that him and Trump have been boys for a long time.
But
before Trump was president, they were hanging out.
And Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
and Bill Clinton.
In fairness, both sides of the political aisle are...
Yeah, that's true, actually.
But
both former presidents.
What's interesting...
Well, one current president.
Theoretically. But anyway, the point here is that, a lot of conspiracy theorists have at their heart of their conspiracy some kind of fixation on pedophilia. But in this particular case, Jeff...
I don't think that's the conspiracy theorist fixation, Dad. I think that's actually a legitimate problem with people in power's fixation.
For sure. The most that they can exert their authority, the more it makes them feel like a big man with a big cock.
Yeah, and that's been going on that's a tale as old as time, dude. People have been doing that for a long fucking time.
And I apologize to lawyers everywhere. He's a financier.
Yeah, he's not a lawyer. I mean,
I don't know.
He's not.
He makes a lot of money and he abuses.
I don't know what he is professionally, but I do know that he fucks kids. So that's really, all I need to know.
Right. Exactly. Well, and so it's interesting because he moved in powerful circles, and now he's getting his comeuppance. One hopes.
Oh, so is R. Kelly. Did you hear about R. Kelly? Got arrested again.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's similar stories, actually. They're not...
Exactly the same, dude. The motherfucker. Actually, there's a shitload of. You remember how that one tape came out of him pissing on the girl, and that was like a huge thing?
Yes, I do.
Right? It would be naive to think that was the only tape he made. You know what I mean? So there's like 20 other tapes that people found.
Yeah, they're going to put him under the jail, and they should. And I hope they do the same for Jeffrey Epstein, frankly. I mean, the exploitation of children, there's a special place in hell for people like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I also just back this up, though, a little bit to say that around the time that good old Trump and Epstein were hanging out the most, is around the time Trump was like, oh, yeah, because I own the pageant, I can just walk in the room and see all these beautiful young girls naked. And it's also to include the teen pageants, which, they can be like 14, 15.
Well, hang on now. Let's watch ourselves here, because that's actually not accurate. He owned that pageant, I think. That particular accusation I'm walking in was contemporaneous to about 2013. The Epstein stuff goes way back before that.
True. Yeah. Well, look, I think either way, if you have any involvement with it's not like you're a man of that caliber and you're friends with that guy and you don't know what the fuck's going on. You know what I mean? And I think everybody knows what the fuck's going on. Everybody who's complicit is just as guilty, but obviously you can't prove that someone knew that unless they make some strange disparaging comments, which honestly he has. But
well, this could be complete conjecture. I have not fact checked, but I read something that they have come across in searching Jeff's home. They found this box of like 27 CDs, and they're unlabeled, and they're investigating to see if it's more porn or if they think it's more likely all the blackmail documentation he has with everybody else that's been silent keep being complicit.
Well, so that's the thing. They think that Epstein is supposed to be a hedge fund manager, except he doesn't really manage any hedge funds. I mean, so they're wondering, how did he make all his money? And there's a theory right now that how he made his money is through blackmail. And so that would make a lot of sense given the other sorts of activities in which he was involved.
Yeah, that seems very likely to me.
So in any event, the point is that also caught up with the Trump administration in terms of their labor secretary, because labor secretary, I can't remember his last name, but Acosta was his last name, and he is the guy that gave a really very, very generous prosecution terms, conviction terms, sentencing deal, if you will, to Epstein back in Miami a few years ago.
Yeah, maybe because Epstein's got a couple of DVDs in his fucking shoebox of Mr. fucking Acosta.
Maybe.
Could be.
Who knows? I don't know.
Purely conjecture. That's actually kind of how R. Kelly went down, too. Some guy explained it all. Whatever record label he was working for at the time when all the shit first popped off, he was making a lot of fucking money. I mean, R. Kelly was selling millions and millions of copies. So he was making a lot of money for these record labels. And then so they were willing to pay for the best of the best lawyers. But now he's getting older, and he's been paying a lot of money to all the people who have these fucking tapes to keep their fucking mouth shut. And his record label's not going to save his ass anymore because he's not making as much money. And because he's not making as much money, he can't continue to pay off these people who are extorting him. And now it's all fucking coming crumbling down.
It's all rampant exploitation.
You know how old his wife was, his first wife, when he married her?
Yeah, she was 15. He was 27.
Yeah. He met her when she was 12. Groomed her since she was 12.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people knew that. Like, that's public knowledge, been public knowledge. Her father was listed. Look, he paid off her father to look the other way. He was listed as a bassist for one of his songs, one of his real popular songs, so that he got an executive producer credit or some kind of shit on that song so that he could be paid a certain amount of money, which was clearly like, him just paying him to take his fucking daughter.
That's incredibly fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but on the other hand, I mean, I never got offered a deal like that for you. I mean, so it's hard to say how I'd react.
Thank God. I wasn't really like, a touchy-feely. I feel like if pedophilia guys were hiding in the bushes, they would look at me and be like, let's see who else shows up.
Yeah, it's a good point. Good point. Although I'm not sure physical attractiveness has much to do with it. I think it's more of an illness.
Yeah, I guess I don't know the exact, what's the word?
Pathology? Yeah.
Parameters.
Yeah. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, or mythology either.
Right, or
If
morphology.
there was any, I hope there's not.
Whatever the ology is, you don't know it. That's good. Yeah, we're going to move on. But anyway, so yeah, weird and kind of very disturbing stories of abuse of power. And what's the lesson? The lesson is that, if you want to live an ethical life, don't abuse your power. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange. And I'm not, I've had this conversation with my friends before. Not about these guys with these child sex rings, but just like weird dudes like Jared Leto. You know how like weird that guy is? I watched an interview with Jake Gyllenhaal, and I'm like, and I fucking love Jake Gyllenhaal, but he was talking to Tom Holland, and I'm like, this dude is fucking weird. Like, just weird. And I've been talking to my friends, like, imagine, and I might have already said this before, but if you just had, like, if you were super fucking rich, and then you just did everything you ever wanted to do, and you've been doing it for 10 years. Like, you got, you're Jeff Bezos. You never have to worry about any amount of money again. You've gone skiing. You've been to everywhere in the world. You've done this. You've done that. And then at the end of it all, 10 years, you're sitting in your fucking mansion on top of your mountain of gold. And you're like, I just did everything I've ever wanted to the point where I don't want to do it anymore. Now what? And then you start doing weird shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Michael Jackson style shit.
Yeah. I think Michael Jackson, someone tried to assassinate his character. I don't think that dude, he's a perfect fucking example. That dude has been so rich and so famous since he was a fucking kid, had been so rich and so famous since he was a kid, that he, like, being a normal person, like how to even interact with people, he never knew that shit. I don't think that dude was touching kids. I think someone tried to assassinate him.
Because there are kids who slept with him. He was sleeping with children, literally. 10, 11, 12 years old. That's not a character.
Michael
That's
Jackson?
a fact. Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean, he would have them in his bed, and then he would sleep with them. Yeah, that's not in dispute. The only question is
not in dispute.
No, the only question is whether or not he fondled them while they were in, because he admitted to that.
I'm gonna need a source on that. That's a wild claim.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm sure he did. I'm just kidding.
It's very well documented.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I don't think he did, though. I think he was fucking weird. I just think he was so rich and so famous for so long that he didn't,
Yeah, he was.
And his father kind of chemically castrated him when he was a kid so he could, have a high-pitched voice. That's also not in dispute. That did happen. So
I'd need a source on that.
Whatever you said when I said that to you, I wasn't. Let's just do that.
I find it fascinating that we've all got such wild accusations that others don't fully believe about this game.
Wow.
No, that's true. His father did chemically castrate him when he was a child.
Yeah, and it's true. He slept with small boys. So
yeah, it is true.
So let me get this straight. You do think that Michael Jackson was a diddler?
Yeah, I do.
You believe that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things beyond diddling, right? I mean, there can be touching. There can be,
I would say that I believe that he was doing it from, from probably like a fucked up point of more like tenderness, which is gross and weird to think about. But at the same time, I don't think he was like aggressively like authority man fucking like the other people we've been talking about do. You know what I mean?
Why are we having this conversation?
I'm just saying. I think there's different types of diddlers, and I think some are more into like the power and keeping people down, and others are more about like trying to fill something in themselves that's fucked up because of their childhood.
Look,
doesn't make it right.
That's true. I don't think Michael Jackson was either one of those. I think he was just a fucking weirdo because he was too rich and too famous for his whole life, and he was fucked up from his dad.
Okay, I agree with all that, but that doesn't mean that he didn't do what many.
I guess you're right. Yeah. You're right about that. He could still be a weirdo. He could be all those things that I said and also touch kids.
Yeah, he could. They're not mutually exclusive at all.
I don't think he did, though. Something about it tells me he did.
So you do believe.
So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, let's just
anyway.
Yeah, so I'm gonna entitle this the Misinformation episode. By the way, I think that's fair. Right. We can't agree on anything real, anyway.
That's good. That's good conversation.
It is. So that's enough news for the week. I think. I would say that we did watch some cool stuff this week. We watched Stranger Things 3. Which had the dramatic conclusion, had both Elsie and Brad weeping.
Okay. I still need to watch the second season.
Yeah. Okay.
Get your shit together.
That's what everyone tells me.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. It's all right. I'm not going to spoil.
He says Zeit, but he didn't actually watch it, so I don't think he's really entitled to speak on it because he saw like half, maybe.
I saw at least half, and I saw the last 3 episodes. I saw enough to know what the thing was about. I mean, believe me, I got the full flavor. It was all right. I'm not saying I hated Stranger Things 3, far from it. But, I mean, you get Stranger Things, you know what you're going to get. Stranger Things.
Right. So how would you compare it to seasons 1 and 2?
To be honest with you, I find Stranger Things to be a light and airy concoction that doesn't really stick with me that well. So, I mean, it's about an 80s nostalgia trip. And so it does that better than any other show on television, in my opinion.
Well, I would agree with that statement entirely, but I would just say I guess I get more enjoyment out of that than you.
Okay.
And it's probably because I spent my younger childhood in the 80s.
Yeah, and I spent my young adulthood in my 80s, and it was not necessarily... Wow, 1880s, that's harsh. I'm not going to lie.
Couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not true, probably.
How would you know?
Maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. You weren't there.
Yeah, there's a reasonable doubt. There's a shadow of a doubt.
Right. The misinformation continues. All right.
Have you seen his birth certificate?
See, there's no way for me to not know that you, or to prove that I do. You know what I'm trying to say, man. You could fuck.
Yeah, are you demanding my long-form birth certificate right now? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's I don't have that. All right, anyway, so
You're probably from Kenya too.
You never know. Might be. I might be. So I forget what I'm saying. Oh, Stranger Things 3. Good. I mean, I could spoil it for you and tell you why as an 80s person it didn't really
Didn't drive.
Yeah.
His thing is the lingo. They didn't always use the most appropriate.
Nope, that's not
lingo.
it at all. Not so.
Okay.
I can't tell you what it is without spoiling it.
That's fair. So moving on then to sports. We went to an Orioles.
Wait a minute. We didn't give Nick an opportunity to weigh in with his own.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Did you see any films? Did you pick up any
Did I tell
new
you
games?
I saw Midsummer?
No. What's Midsummer? I don't even know what that is.
There was this fucking. He's the guy who made. I know I've talked about it. He's the guy who made Hereditary, and then my girlfriend was like, "Let's go see Midsummer," and it was the same guy, and it's like a psychological horror. I went to see it with a couple other friends too. They hated it, but I thought it was good.
Why did they hate it?
Well, because.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this the second out of 3?
Wait, what?
Is this the second film? Is this the dramatic follow-up to another film?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Just a Midsummer. That's what it's called.
Yeah, just Midsummer. They didn't like it because they thought it was slow. Like, nothing, like, really scary happens, like, until, I don't know, about 3/4 of the way through the movie. But it does, like, at the end, it's a fucking, it's crazy as fuck. You know something's up, but the suspense is really good. The guy, like, the director does a good job of, like, not having any noise at all. You know what I mean? Like, just the sound of outside, and there's all those people there and building the tension. And that movie does a great job of showing, like, it does a great visual representation of what it's like to trip balls.
Oh.
They keep taking mushrooms and shit and, like, weird drugs in that movie.
Interesting. All right.
The Swedish people give them these teas and mushrooms and stuff, and so these people are all disoriented at this crazy festival, like, the whole time, and then all of a sudden it gets, like, fucking weird and shit. But it does, like, a good visual representation of what it's like to trip. So
right, and then it gets really weird.
Yeah, and there's a couple of parts where it's like, fuck, man, it gets, like, real brutal, and they just, like, keep showing the thing.
Yeah, so in other words, what's your recommendation? See or not see?
I would see it. Yeah, Go see it.
Okay, Midsummer. Check it out.
Don't expect to be, like, real scared and shit, but it's just a cool, like, And then the final scene, like, at the very end, like, you can see, like, the lady. I don't know if I won't ruin it for you, but the final, like, shot of the movie is pretty cool.
All right, so you liked the ending as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. All right, sounds good. Midsummer.
I don't like to be scared, so it sounds like it's right up my alley.
Yeah,
it's
suspenseful.
Not, like, scary, but there's parts of it, well, especially in a theater where it's all dark and shit and the sound is real loud. Like, the guy did a good job at the sound, and there's just, like, certain parts that are real suspenseful.
That's what we like.
It pops off, and then, like, yeah, it's good. I liked it.
Okay, good. So that's what you did this week. Did you read anything, hear any music, anything like that?
No.
All right. Now we can roll on, I think, to, whatever it is that Elsie
Wait,
won.
well, since we're talking about movies, I do have one question
Yes.
for both.
Yes.
What is one movie that you had no expectations of, didn't know nothing about, and then you walked in and loved it?
Well, dating back, I guess
one.
number one
of all time, where you knew nothing about it, you just walked into that shit and you're like, wow, that's pretty good.
There's a few like that, actually, but not anything recent. It's all older.
The one that pops to my mind first would be Paul. Have you seen Paul?
Yeah, that was a great fucking movie.
It's a great fucking movie. Your dad hasn't seen it.
No,
you should watch it.
Okay. Well, I guess one that I saw that really, relatively recent, it's 10 years old now, 2009's Moon, starring Sam Rockwell, directed by David Bowie's son. That's a good flick. I had no expectation, and it was basically a one-person show starring Sam Rockwell and the voice of Kevin Spacey as a robot.
Moon, it was called?
It's called Moon. It's available, or it was, on Netflix. I'm sure it's streaming someplace.
Okay. I'm going to go with, I don't know if a documentary. I'll give one for a documentary that I knew nothing about. I don't know if that counts, but we'll go with Sugar Man.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
a great documentary.
Yeah.
What is that?
So
that was about this guy. His name's Sixto Rodriguez, and he tried to. Actually, you tell the story, Dad. You're probably going to do it better. You probably remember it better than I.
Perhaps, but yeah, he was a guitarist and singer-songwriter from Detroit in the late 1960s who cut one album, only one album, and it went into obscurity in the United States. But in South Africa, it became an enormous runaway hit. And he was one of the most popular figures in South African music in history, but nobody knew him because it was the days before the internet. And he himself did not know that he was popular in South Africa. And so Sugar Man is the story of how these folks in South Africa finally tracked him down and then revitalized his career in South Africa.
Yeah, and he was an old fucking man, working construction in Detroit and shit, living in a shitty-ass house. But meanwhile in South Africa, he's a fucking god to them, like a legend. And they finally get a hold of him. It's a crazy movie.
So in what decade did they find him?
In the 2000s.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
He
was an old man by the time they found him.
Wow.
And then, at the end of it all, he went on tour in fucking South Africa and made a shitload of money. And then he just gave it all away and went back to being a construction worker.
Also true.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, fuck it now. I don't even care anymore. You guys could just have this back. I'm going to go back to my life.
Wow.
Yep, and all of that happened. So
I remember walking out of the movie theater being like, why? How could he possibly just give that all up? And then Dad looked at me and said, some people just aren't motivated by money. And I was shocked.
It's true. And so you've learned a valuable lesson.
Well, yeah, that was crazy. Especially you looked at his fucking house, dude. It was garbage.
Yeah, he had to, wood heating stove. He had to, keep it. Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, it was Detroit. It was a rundown part of Detroit as well.
Stuffing newspapers in his coat. And it's like, dude, you can literally go live like a king in a palace in South Africa right now.
Yep, but he chose not to do that. Didn't want to leave his hometown of Detroit.
Yeah, crazy stuff. That was a good one. But for an actual movie now, going in, not knowing dick about it, I don't know, maybe Pacific Rim.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we saw that together too, I think.
And it's like, when you don't want much from a movie, you can really enjoy it. You know what I mean?
It's true. I
feel like we got that out of Alita Battle Angel too. We both knew it wasn't going to be that great, so we just were like, let's fucking just do it, and then
yeah, it was perfectly satisfactory. Although I will say again, it was so set up for the second one that I was
it was incredibly anticlimactic.
Exactly. So good. Now on to sports. And sports, we went to see a Baltimore Orioles game yesterday. Elsie's going to tell us all about it.
I feel like you should help talk about it. You actually saw more of it than I did.
That's true. So here's what happened in this game. First of all, the Orioles got their ass kicked because they're having one of the worst seasons in their history.
Well, but it was a doubleheader, make up a ring game, and they won the afternoon game. So we came in full of hope and expectation.
Well, Elsie did. I really didn't.
No,
I figured that was a fluke. And they lost 12-5, and it wasn't really that. Only one point in the game was it close. They drew to within one run at 3-2 in the third inning or fourth inning. But yeah, they ended up getting their asses kicked. But the real star of the show of that game was the fact that as we were leaving, I reached down in my pants pocket and realized I don't have my wallet.
Tale as old as time.
Well, and so we're at this game. We get there early. It's wine shirt night. Your father gets his meal. He gets his jumbo dog and fries. He goes upstairs, chips or something. So anyway, we're sitting there.
Just a jumbo dog.
Just a jumbo dog. So we're sitting there, and the rest of the evening, like, Brad and I get up a couple of times. We miss an inning and a half here and there trying to get food and whatnot. And your dad's just sitting there the whole game.
That's true.
The whole game.
I watched all 9 innings. All 27 up, 27 down. Then we get up to leave, and I realize, this is not good. Oh, this is bad. So Elsie says, well, let's go look at, let's go talk to fan service. So fan service, where fan services is at is where all of the handicapped people, the people in wheelchairs, are trying to get out. So we can't cut in front of people in wheelchairs. That's uncool. Right. So we got to wait for them to clear out.
That's called a dick move.
Right. Excuse me, I'm looking for a wallet here. Sorry.
Get the fuck out of my way. Just dump him out of a wheelchair.
Right. Couldn't do it. So waited for that. So I'm sweating bullets, right? Obviously. And so I go up to, finally make my way to the fan services person. I say, I don't suppose anybody turned a wallet in half there. And she said, is your last name Shinn? And I felt,
yes, it is.
I felt, bingo, palpable relief.
But as a fun side note to this, so we're in line with these wheelchair people, and I'm holding the door open, and your father has gone inside, just waiting for an opportunity to ask this lady something. And there's this very belligerent drunk man behind Brad, who was behind me, and he's going on and on about some faggot sitting around him and just throwing out like these mean, hateful words and
yikes.
Right, and then so it had cleared out enough because the elevator went down that we had an opportunity to walk in, and Brad and I weren't walking fast enough for him. So he kind of pushes Brad along. It's like, let's move it. So Brad's hot. He's been listening to this guy be an asshole. He's now just been pushed by this guy right at the same time that Peter's hearing, is your last name Shinn? And so I'm in the middle trying to be help Peter out. Because we got to go down 3 levels of the stadium down to the main Lost and Found. They didn't have it there. So we had to go down. Meanwhile, Brad's losing his shit because he's ready to go beat up this drunk guy. And Peter's just we got to get there before it closes. It was a very interesting, emotionally charged time in our lives.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that Brad whirled around and said, "Hey, yo, shut the fuck up," and then just slapped him down to the ground, where he promptly got trampled by passerbys in wheelchairs.
Yeah, that would have been a great story.
That would have been amazing, and that's what kept running in Brad's head the whole time. So he's going on and on about how he should have handled the situation, to which your dad came up with the perfect solution, which is if that were to ever happen again, he should just instantly turn special needs, be like, and then make the guy so uncomfortable about himself that he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
We used to do that and go into gas stations and try to get free candy.
Of course you did.
Look, my sister here is, she's a little... Well, back then you could say retarded. We would say that.
Right.
We'd say she's retarded, see? And her blood sugar's just so incredibly low. If we could just possibly get
just a candy
from you,
yeah,
be on our way, kind stranger.
Yeah. So how did that work out? Did that ever work?
Once worked. You're definitely gonna laugh halfway through when the person next to you is like, they're trying to sell it. You know what I mean? They're overselling it a little bit. And just fucking laughing. Now you got to run out of there.
But how else can you act the special? I mean, you want to give it your all.
It wasn't about the candy. It was about just going in there and acting retarded.
Exactly.
Oh, son, you make me proud. All right. So anyway, so that happened yesterday. So that's all I really know about sports. Other than there were a couple of fights. Uriah Faber's back in the mix now. 40-year-old Uriah Faber whooped some ass in UFC last night, and now he's back in the mix for a title fight.
46-second knockout.
Unbelievable. Well, he's quite the fighter.
Yeah, well, he's always been good. That was the only fight on that card I gave a flying 16th of a fuck about, and I didn't even watch it.
I see.
So
yeah, well, he won.
That card was not that good, but this next week's card, I believe, is going to be stacked, although I can't remember who's on it.
All right, so we'll just plan for that. Plan for next week in terms of the sports. Yeah. Well, I don't have any other sporting news that I can think of, other than the fact that the baseball season is headed towards home, and I couldn't care less. I wish I cared, but I don't.
Yeah, baseball is definitely a billion times funner to play. Actually, you know what? Every baseball game I physically go to, I enjoy it. It's fun to be at a baseball game, but I do not like watching it like on TV, or I would never follow it. Or
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely a sport you have to be present for.
Yeah, but you go to the stadium, you get a dog, you lose your wallet. It's fun.
You fight with a drunk guy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an experience, not to be missed.
Yeah. There's always a drunk guy. Fucking all the time. There's a drunk guy just saying some shit that,
Right.
And then you have to question whether or not you should do something about it. And you're like, I'm not going to fucking do anything about it. And then you're like, but, and then everything's fine in the end.
Generally.
Handle your fucking liquor, people, okay? You
Right.
can't handle it, don't go out.
Yeah, that's fair.
Good PSA.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Quit drinking.
Yeah, or just quit drinking. Seriously, if you can't handle it, then don't fucking do it. You know what I mean? Why you got to ruin it for everybody?
Right. Just back it the fuck off.
Yeah, just, slow down, dude.
Yeah. All right.
You specifically, the guy at that game yesterday.
Right.
Fucking.
I'm talking to you right now.
We know you're listening, dude.
Exactly.
Right. This anti-alcohol.
More importantly, your friends and family are listening.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope they communicate to him that a random podcast identified him and called him out.
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But
Sounds
conversely,
like a Jake.
Yeah, Jake. Way to go, Jake.
Yeah, you fuck. Your family is currently planning an intervention in the room immediately adjacent to yours right now.
Just because you can't handle your liquor. Way to go,
You
Jake.
can't handle your shit, dude. Rookie fucking move.
But conversely to you, Jake, a big congratulations to you listener, who turned in the wallet without taking a single dollar.
Yeah, well, that's true. They did do that.
Yeah, I meant to ask, did you have a lot of cash in there?
About $80. I mean, not a huge amount, but enough. Enough to be appealing to someone. So here's what happened. I got my dog, and I believe I set my wallet down. Not when I got the dog, but when I applied condiments. I believe.
That's a rookie mistake, Dad.
No,
I've learned that anytime I get my wallet out, the very next thing I need to do is put it immediately back in my back pocket, because I will leave it somewhere.
No doubt, yo. I don't know. I mean, I worry sometimes. I'm getting on in years. Could be an early Alzheimer's type situation. You don't know.
Is this the first time you've lost your wallet this year?
No.
Yeah, it is. It's first time I've lost it this year.
In 2019?
It's the first time you've lost it, but there has been a time or two you've said, ooh, and we've found it.
Really?
Quickly,
like when?
Yeah.
Like when?
Within the last couple months, we were somewhere like out on one of our hikes or something. Maybe a farmer's market. It was a fairly quick. It was not like a baseball game by any means.
Right.
It was more like a 5-minute affair.
I wouldn't say that this is about you getting on in years, because you've been doing this since I was a kid too. For sure.
I did tell him I think he should get a badass chain situation like a goth, and that would be a really good look at work.
Yeah, just one end attached to the wallet, and the other just like pierced through the side of you.
A piercing! I like it.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
No, although you've got a good point. I mean, with me, it's been my wallet over the years. With your beloved departed Uncle Christopher, it was his keys.
I for sure inherited that from him. Well, actually, a little bit of both. I lose both them fuckers all the time.
Well, congratulations.
Like in my house, though. Like not out in public. Like literally, when I'm not in my house, I'm always just patting my back pocket at all times. Like literally every 35 seconds, I just pat my back pocket. Yeah. PWK, dude. Phone, wallet, keys. Make sure you got it. That's
right. And then after you make sure you've got your phone, wallet, and keys, ditch Facebook, hit the gym, lawyer up.
Lawyer up.
Yep. That's advice to live by.
Wear your seatbelt, eat your milk.
Hey, speaking of which, our we have two fans, as you're aware. Ben, shout out to Ben. Hey, Ben, thanks for listening. And our second fan, Chris. Chris, thanks for listening. Chris recently did send me a text in which he put hashtag, delete Facebook, hit the gym, lawyer up. So I think that's a phrase that's becoming ever more popular. Thanks to you, Nick. Well done.
Well, once again, I will say that I did not make that up, and I stole it from Reddit, which was, like years ago they were saying that. But it's still funny.
And still accurate, really. Still a good idea.
Well, just because I forget people actually listen to this, I do feel the need to give a disclaimer that I don't personally recommend the selling of South Americans' organs to Asians.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad
it's not a personal endorsement. I'm just, anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Way to get that out there.
Yeah.
That's
glad
relief.
we cleared that up, because that was just kind of hanging over the whole
It really was.
It was kind of a dark cloud over the pod, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
Glad we've resolved that. Thanks, Else.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I guess we should probably wrap it up, huh?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
It's time for me to get some luncheon. I was asking Elsie what I should eat. She suggested a smoothie, some sort of peanut butter smoothie, but I don't have that kind of technology.
Oh, I see. Well, just eat a few tablespoons of peanut butter then. And drink some milk with it. And swish it around.
I'm definitely going to do a PB&J, but you know.
That sounds good. Well, it is dinner time here in this part of the world. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you where we're at. It's an undisclosed location, but here in the greater East Coast area.
But if you have banana, slice up a banana in that PB&J.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
That sounds very Elvis Presley.
You know those Smuckers, like those prepackaged ones that are like crustless, the circle ones?
Yes.
Yeah, you put in the freezer. I ate one of those frozen ones, and I was like, I should just do it like this from now on. You know what I mean?
Really? That's fascinating.
Yeah, try it. It's like ice cream.
Except it sounds like it would hurt the teeth.
Not like completely frozen, but definitely not completely thawed. You know what I mean? Like take it out of the freezer and then just wait until, you can squeeze it a little bit, but still cold though. So like the peanut butter's still hard.
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's good. Try it.
Sounds like money. Well, congratulations on getting your workout on. Well done.
Oh, thanks.
Oh my God, my
wow,
man, my harmonica broke. It's really sad.
Really?
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, I just don't know how to play it. A Shinn Show is a production of Shinfluence. It features the voices and opinions of the Shinn family, which are exclusively and entirely their own. It's brought to you on a face basis. It's also brought to you on a fake basis by Ziffs and a Throne Room. Neither of those places know that we're sponsoring them, or they're sponsoring us. Who knows? Who knows what they know? Who knows what we know?
Who's sponsoring who?
No one.
Yeah.
No one is sponsoring anything. Anyway, you can get this wherever you'd like to get a podcast, the usual places. But let's face it, you probably don't want to, so don't bother. And if you do happen to stumble upon this thing, for God's sake, don't rate it. Don't do it. Anyway, we'll see you next week when we'll hear Nicholas Shinn say...
Watch out for those organ harvesting clowns, y'all.
Actually, we'll hear. Well, that's true. We'll hear you say that every week. Until then, bye-bye.